Hey, what's up guys? It's Jackie, the vegan marketer from Influential Vegan, and today I want to share with you an extremely important influence principle that is responsible for action. So what that principle is, I'm going to tell you really quickly, and I'm going to elaborate more on why it's important, how to create it, right? And what that principle is scarcity. And more than scarcity, it's also urgency. And you can imagine why it's so important is because, as I've mentioned in my past videos, there are 3 aspects to marketing, right? And the foundation of that, which is belief, right? So check out that video if you haven't already. And number 1, it is getting someone to know that the belief exists. 2 is for them to embody that belief. And 3, it is for them to act on that belief. So if someone knows about your product, they knows about your service, they know about your message, they even think it's a good one, right? They even like the idea or even considering that message. What is that final step, that final thing that I'm going to talk about that is going to make them act now? In other words, this is closing, okay? And how do we get people to act now? And quite simply, one of the most powerful ways to do that is through scarcity and urgency. So I'm going to illustrate this with a story. And the story is almost a little TMI, right? But if it's okay with me to share this with you, then continue watching. If it's not, then just pause it, skip it. You probably got the bulk of what you need to know right there. But this story basically is of me a few years ago. I was extremely sick. I just got sick like a day or 2 ago. Not now, but like in the story, right? So about 2 years ago, I was extremely sick. And I was just trying to go hard, man, because I had a really important midterm. I think it was, for one of my classes, it was a pretty important class, and I think it was maybe like 30% of the grade, 40%. It was something huge, something dumb like that, right? And what ends up happening is that right before this midterm happens, I get sick the days before. And I'm feeling terrible, right? But I'm trying to study, I'm trying to get as much information into my head so then I can do well on this, right? Because it doesn't stop for anybody. And this test, for one, it's scarce, right? Because there's only one midterm the entire semester for this class, and it was important because, it was the only one that was worth so many points. So this lecture in particular, that class in particular for that certain day was extra important because of the sense of urgency that came with it, right? But it doesn't end there. So basically the night before, I tried drinking a bunch of lemon water, a bunch of all the other stuff, right? But I'm feeling terrible. But the day of the final comes, I'm sleep deprived, I am feeling gross, I don't even want to go there, but I know I have this obligation, this compulsion to have to go to this test, right? And I believe this class was earlier in the morning. It was maybe like 8 or 9 a.m. So I'm getting ready for this class. I think I'm gonna kill it, maybe. I think I'm gonna pass because I was thinking, given the circumstances, I'm gonna do relatively well for someone who was, sick, who had to study while being sick, and, granted, the stuff was hard to learn in the first place, right? But on my way to the class, I shit you not, there was this hill that I had to go up, right? And I was feeling sick, I felt kind of gross, right? And I, let out a little fart because I was gassy, right? From whatever I was eating or from something, from just being sick. And the problem though was that it wasn't a fart that I let out. It was, quite simply, I believe the term is called sharding. So this is the first time I sharded myself, right? And my roommate over there is laughing at this, but I've told this story to him before. But I sharded myself, and I had this ultimate dilemma, right? Because I think I had maybe another 5-10 minutes to get to the class. And I'm already halfway away from my apartment, away from home, halfway to my other class, right? Each way was maybe about 10 minutes, or maybe not 10 minutes, maybe like 5 to 7 minutes. So I was in this dilemma of having shit in my pants But I had this time sensitive exam that I had to, slay, right? So what do I do? Do I go back? Do I, change, clean myself up like a decent person, a sanitary person would? Or do I go to the test and just, go balls to the wall and just who cares, right? Take the test. And what I end up doing is, might surprise you, might not, because there's a certain social context of that students understand, or if you've ever been a student that understands the importance of an exam like this. So what I'm doing is I stop by a restroom on the way from where the accident happened to the test. And I go to the restroom, I clean myself up, I throw away my underwear because, they were gone, they're dead, no longer serving me, right? So I clean myself up and then I rush to the exam anyways because it was important, because the exam had this sense of urgency. So let me just summarize really quickly what happened. So there was an exam that was so important, this critical point that had so much emphasis and so much urgency, that someone who was sick, someone who was sleep deprived, someone who was literally shat themselves, someone who literally shat themselves still went to this freaking exam, right? And not only that person, me, but literally everyone else who probably never showed up to a couple of other lectures before showed up there too. So why was the classroom full? Why was everyone there taking the test? And quite simply, because of scarcity, because of the urgency surrounded around this event. So what I'm trying to say here then is that for your message, for your product, for your messaging, why don't you create that full classroom? Because I'm gonna be honest, those other days, those other regular lectures, barely half the class would show up. Yet, on this very extremely important day, everyone, including the people who shat themselves, also, went there, and did what they had to do. So I'm asking you then, how can you implement this so that you can create your full classroom? You wouldn't want to be teaching, you wouldn't be sharing your message to a half full classroom, your product, your service, whatever it is that you have a value that is worth sharing and selling. Why? Well, not why, but basically I'm trying to convey to you the point that you're going to want to use scarcity, you're going to want to use urgency, so that way you can have a full classroom. That way you can have people literally, going through a bunch of hurdles. So then that way they can get whatever you're offering, whatever you have. So in my case, in that story, it was to take the exam and to do well and to pass the class, right? Or not fail it, right? But in your case, it is to share this message, to share your product, to sell whatever it is. Sell to a full classroom. Don't sell it to a half classroom or to, where half the people aren't there. And why half the people weren't there, and why some of your audience who might actually like you, who care about what you have to say, aren't going to be listening to exactly the most important thing that you have to say, because you don't create enough scarcity around it. You don't create enough urgency around it. So what I'm suggesting you to do in your marketing efforts, in your conveying of the messages efforts, is to include scarcity. And make this real scarcity, make this real urgency, because like my exam, like the thing that I had to go through so many hurdles just to take, right? It was like literally me taking an hour and a half exam that was pretty sucky, right? All things considered. But everyone showed up, everyone went there, and everyone did it. And basically the point I'm trying to convey to you is you need to create real scarcity. You have to create a situation where your product, your service, whatever you're offering, really has a sense of, if you don't get it now, you're gonna miss it, and you're gonna miss out ultimately, right? So that is the type of messaging that you wanna convey. So you could do this by incorporating how many spots you have left, and make this a real thing by saying you're only gonna have it open for however long, that you only have so many products left, or so many offers left, or if you're talking about veganism, that's a little more complex because it's a broader message. But we can still use scarcity because maybe as an influencer or something, you have like a 7-day challenge, right? Or a 30-day challenge that they can only enter at the beginning of the month. And if they don't enter at the beginning of the month and don't start now, then, they're gonna miss it. They're not gonna have an opportunity to participate in whatever you have to sell, to offer to them, that, they otherwise would have benefited from. But you see, by creating the scarcity, you create this sense of urgency that forces people, not forces, let's be real, but is highly compelling for them to take action now, to take action in the next day, to take action before your scarcity ends. Okay, so this is an extremely important concept. This is actually one of the core principles in Robert Cialdini's book of influence. It's used in a lot of influential situations. It's used a lot in direct response marketing. And the reason why is because it works. It works in classes, works as, in the context of midterms, works in the context of selling products, it works in the context of negotiating. So, if you got anything from that story, if you got value out of this video, if you accept the importance of scarcity and you think it is important, then you can like this video, you can share it with someone else who can benefit from this. You can give it a thumbs up, you can comment. I would normally say something about creating some type of scarcity, like if you were to comment within a week of this video uploading, then I'd give you a personal free consultation or something, but I'm not gonna do that because I just shared it with you. But you know what's crazy? I could have just shared that with you and then still made that offer, and people would still have been excited to have taken it, even knowing this concept. So that's something else that's really important, is just because it doesn't mean that you're immune to it. So, as a marketer, I understand a lot of these marketing principles, but when I see other marketers doing it to me, I still not fall for it, but I still am compliant with it. I still have the same human psychology that still runs my processes of making decisions, okay? So anyways, yeah, this video is getting long. Share it, like it, subscribe, all that great stuff, and I will talk to you soon. Have a beautiful day, and implement that scarcity, man. Yeah.